Named one of the top 10 wedding photographers in the world, a legend behind the lens, world-renowned author, the one, the only, Kevin Kubota.
We've got clients coming. Can you please go out and sweep the front of the office?
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Okay.
All right, thank you.
On this edition of PhotoPro, we're going to talk about lighting, and this is a lighting setup that's simple. I've used this for many years myself, probably 15 years or so. This has been a staple in my lighting kit. And it's great because you can set it up in the studio, you can take it on location. What we have here is a homemade light box. What we have here is a homemade light box. And it recreates a nice directional window light, and that's what I generally try to do with my lighting, is to emulate natural light as much as possible. Even if you're using artificial light, whether you're in the studio or outside, you want it to look as natural as possible most of the time. So this setup right here is great if you're a portrait photographer, whether you go on location or you work in your studio. It's a nice light that can be very dramatic depending on how much fill light you use. It's great for headshots, even full body shots. If you shoot children or babies, they can sit on the floor, and this light works just as well for just about anybody. And all it takes is a little tweaking of the angle and the position and the reflector fill to change the look of the light quite a bit. So what we're gonna do today is, we have Brittany, and we're gonna do a kind of a head and shoulders, just a portrait headshot, and just to show you how simple this light is and how beautiful the quality of the light is. Very soft and flattering. And the setup is quite easy. Basically, I'm using these translucent panels. These are light panels from PhotoFlex, and they're aluminum. I like those the best. I also have some older plastic frames here, which work pretty well too. They're still serviceable, but I do prefer the aluminum panel. The front panel has the translucent white fabric, and the side panels here have white reflective fabric. And the idea is that these are going to bounce all the light that comes out of this flash head through the front and evenly illuminate that white front panel, creating a big, nice, soft, even window light. So when I get ready to shoot, I'll just close these up so that I'm sealing in the light into the panel, just like that. And one head is all I need. I'm going to use an impact portable monolight. This is from B&H, and it's a really cool, easy to use light. It's lightweight, it's battery powered, so you can take it anywhere. And it puts out a lot of light, actually. So I use this in the studio, and it's great for location work. So we'll put that directly into the box. You want to have the light towards the back of the box as much as possible, so right at the edge of these frames, so that it will illuminate as much of the face as possible evenly. If you put the light too close to the face, then you're going to get a hot spot right in the middle, and you're not really taking advantage of that full size window. So the point here is to illuminate as much of this front panel as evenly as possible, and then we have that giant, beautiful, soft window light. All this stuff is triggered here with a Pocket Wizard wireless trigger. This is the TT5, and it's very versatile. You can use it with obviously your speed lights as well as your studio lights by just plugging it in right there in the back of the flash. So this is a very simple setup, very versatile. So let's take a look on the other side and see what it's going to look like on our model. Here we are on the business side of the light, and we can see our light panel. I've put a little light behind this so you can see what's going on. We're going to illuminate this whole thing. Looks like a big window, and then we have Brittany sitting here, and I'm going to shoot this direction so that this light is essentially a side light. Now, generally with women, you want to work on short lighting. Now, short lighting is when the light source comes across the face so that when you're looking through the camera, the side that you see more of, or the broader side of her face, is in shadow. Because shadows hide things. They hide weight, they hide imperfections, or anything else that you're trying to minimize. If you put that in shadow, well, it's less obvious to the viewer, and the picture generally looks better. That's the whole idea of what we're doing, right? We're professionals because we make people look better, not worse, and definitely not what they normally look like, because nobody wants to look like that, right? So, although Brittany, I'm sure she does. She's very happy with the way she looks, and so are we. So anyway, we're gonna short light her face, meaning we're gonna kind of angle her face this way into the light, and I'm shooting this way. The broader side of her face on that side will fall a little bit more into shadow. So it has a slimming effect on the face. So, window light. And the other thing to keep in mind when you're using any kind of lighting is the closer the light is to the subject, the softer the light will be, and the smoother transitions from light to shadow. And that's really important. If you've looked at my lighting notebook, I talked about this. It's called chiaroscuro. And chiaroscuro is basically the interplay of light to shadow. And when you have good chiaroscuro, it's because the shadows are soft and shapely and they transition nicely from highlight to shadow. And that's what we're trying to create. And when you move the light source closer, that looks better that way. When the light source is further away, it's more like the sun, and you start to generate these crisper, harder shadows that actually fall really quickly from highlight to shadow. Sometimes you have to kind of play with this to see what the difference is, and you can check it out in my book. I've got examples, but just trust me here. We want the light source close to her for this particular setup. The other thing I want to do is to have my light panel roughly at her ear coming forward. And I talk about this as from ear to here. And when I place my light source, if you have it at her ear coming forward, there's more light that can wrap and help to fill the shadow side of her face. If I was to push this light panel back, I would have more direct side lighting, and I'd be basically wasting the back half of my light source. So I bring it from ear to here, meaning where you are, and let it wrap around. The other thing I like to do is to think about when I'm photographing someone here, there's an angle coming out of your lens that's like a triangle, a cone, right? This is your field of view. So from my camera, my field of view might go like this and like that, at a triangle coming out. And what I generally try to do is to place my light box or source along the edge of that triangle, so it follows the line of my lens just outside of view, all right? What that does, again, is helps to wrap the light as much as possible, so one light source can really be almost like two, where it gives itself fill light by wrapping around her face. So just think of your angle of your lens, line up your softbox or whatever it is you're using with that angle of the lens, bring it from ear to here, and you should have some beautiful light. So let's try it out, do some shoots. We did all those shots with just a single light, this panel on the right here, and that emulates a single window coming in. Now it puts some really nice dramatic shadows on this side of her face, and you'll notice from the finished images when she's turning slightly into the light, it's great. It shapes her face, gives a nice slimming effect to it, and it also puts a dramatic shadow on this side. But if she's going to be looking directly into the camera, and if this was a headshot for someone who may be older, or maybe didn't hold those deep shadows as well as she does, because she's got a nice face for that, then you want to throw in some kind of reflector, a fill light. And so this panel right here is essentially the same type of panel, but with a white reflective fabric. And by placing this on the opposite side of the light, again, kind of emulating this cone coming out of your lens here, then it creates a great amount of fill. And depending on how close you put it, you can almost completely eliminate shadows on the side of her face, or you can put it a little further away and you can kind of dial in how much shadow you want. So we're gonna kind of play with that for a couple of shots, just to have a softer light on her when she's looking directly into camera without so much shadow on this side. And so you can see the difference and giving you a lot of options for how your light's gonna look with some very simple tools. All right, that setup looked really nice, but I wanted to add one more thing. I kind of like to have a backlight of some sort, a rim light. I can use a speed light. In this case, I'm using this SB800 speed light with a Rogue grid attachment. And this is a really cool, very lightweight, small, portable. It's a grid spot that attaches to the front of your speed light, and it's adjustable from a very narrow beam to a wider beam. And this will focus the light right just on the back of her head, so it doesn't throw light all over the room. I don't want light everywhere. I just want on the hair and on her shoulders, a little soft little edge light. It adds separation from the background because I had my background here where the plant is a little bit darker. So I wanted her to separate a little bit from that, and just adds a little more of a glamorous feel having that little edge light in the scene. So again, all I used here were two lights, one inside of the panel, and this second speed light, again with another pocket wizard to trigger it, and the Rogue grid. Now the Rogue grid removes easily from the front of your flash, And what you have here is a little grid attachment, and these can be stacked so that you have actually several options, either a single, which is a fairly wider beam, and there's a thicker one which narrows it down, and then you stack the two and you have an even tighter beam. Or sometimes you can even take the grid out of the middle, just like this. It just slides right out, and use this without the grid at all. And then you have a fairly wide but still concentrated beam of light. So it's a really versatile tool, and the whole thing comes apart, folds flat in your camera bag just like that. Roll it up in a little sack, put it in your pocket. You're good to go, all right? Easy. Well, there you go. We had a quick, simple lighting setup, and we made it a little more complicated with just adding one extra light, but it really wasn't that much more complicated. Your light panels are inexpensive, and you can actually make them yourself if you really can't afford to buy the commercially available panels. I've made them myself in the past using PVC pipe. Go down to Home Depot and get some PVC pipe, cut them to the size you want, and get some parachute cloth from the fabric store, and just sew a little elastic around the corners of the fabric, and you can hook it onto the edges of the PVC pipe, and it works just the same. It's not quite as convenient to set up and easy to take down and move on location, but the quality of the light is pretty close. So if you're on a tight budget, try that, and you might find that you have a new favorite lighting setup. Hey, don't forget, we want you to interact with us, so click on the homework link. And what you can do is, if you get a chance to try out this lighting setup yourself, whether you end up using the same panels I have, buying some of your own, or making your own, try it out and show some results in the homework section. Upload some photos, share it with the rest of the community here, and we'll all get to see what you're doing with your homemade window light. I'll see you next week on PhotoPro. Hey, next week on PhotoPro, make sure you tune in, especially if you're running out of time and you don't have time to watch PhotoPro. Well, then you really need to come and watch PhotoPro, because I'm going to talk about time management, a problem that all creative people and photographers in general have a little bit of a problem with. So tune in next week and see some solutions for yourself.
PhotoPro was brought to you by White House Custom Color. Like the music? Special thanks to Triple Scoop Music. Frame Network giveaways are brought to you by B&H. Head to giveaways.framenetwork.com for your chance to win. Find out more about the equipment used in this episode on framenetwork.com.